Welcome everybody to IGN Overclocked. This is our third episode.
I'm feeling maxed out already. I'm being pushed beyond my normal megahertz limits.
This is we're down to a skeleton crew because it's August 6th right now, which means we're in the middle of both Valve's International Dota tournament and Gamescom.
And people on summer vacations. What have you.
Yeah, so Mitch and Brian and Miranda are all at the International. We've got Brandon Terrell and who else have we got at Gamescom?
I mean, there's a whole contingent.
Vince is working the night shift.
Yeah.
so yeah, it's down to you and down to me, Ryan.
Yeah, you being Dan Stapleton, me being Ryan McCaffrey. If you're wondering what the hell I'm doing here, I'm actually allowed to be here now because with your advice and your guidance, I've recently built myself a nice shiny new PC, which just makes me so happy when I turn it on at home because I was about 6 years overdue for a new machine. And so now I've got a nice, slick, nice, quiet, now Windows 10 machine. Started Windows 8.1 with Classic Shell. I'm feeling good about PC gaming again now that I can do it.
Yeah, you've been playing The Witcher 3 on that, right?
A little bit, yeah, whenever I can. And it's, granted, I'm going big picture mode with a gamepad, but it looks nice and runs great.
That is a totally valid approach to PC gaming these days.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with that. But yeah, there's just an avalanche of news that we just couldn't. Last week we had to miss a show because of technical difficulties, and I just didn't want to go another week without sounding off and letting weighing in on just like the mountain of stuff that's happening.
There's no slowdown in PC gaming time.
Right.
There's always something going on.
And Gamescom this year has been particularly good to us.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I guess you were talking about on Unlocked that was also relevant to us here is that Microsoft announced Halo Wars 2 for both Xbox One and PC.
Yeah. I really did not think that this game was going to come back because it was a great sort of experiment. I mean, the great irony being that Halo originally started out as a prototype for a real-time strategy game because Bungie had made Myth before that. And, of course, it morphed into the first-person shooter we all know it as. But then Ensemble came in, which Microsoft owned, the Age of Empires guys. They made themselves a hell of an awesome console. I know, a lot of the PC gamers might look down on Halo Wars, but there's
just resentment because it was Ensemble's last game.
Ensemble, and it was a console game.
And a historically PC developer made a console game, and then Microsoft killed the studio.
Yeah.
There was some bitterness there, and it just never even came to PC, which never made any sense. Like, you made an RTS.
Totally made no sense.
Why not put it on PC?
They when Ensemble shut down, they split into two studios, the one of which I can never remember the name of, and Robot Entertainment. And it was a shame that they didn't just contract those guys to go ahead and do a PC port.
Well, so Robot did do Age of Empires Online, or at least they started doing it before it was handed off to Gas Powered. Apparently, the fact that they handed it off to Gas Powered Games implied there was not necessarily the best relationship between them and Microsoft. So it's kind of understandable why they would not want to work with them again, maybe.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that it's Halo Wars 2 is being developed by Creative Assembly.
Creative Assembly, makers of Alien Isolation. But before that, a whole bunch of good strategy games.
Total War series, which I can't imagine that Halo Wars 2 will have much in common with Total War.
I should think not.
Total Wars is a much, it's a grand scale strategy game with tactical battles in it. I guess you could make Total War Halo, but I don't think that's what they're doing here.
No, I would be extremely happy if they more or less took the blueprint of Halo Wars 1 that Ensemble drew up and just built upon that and expanded upon it, because what Halo Wars did well for me was it blended an interesting story. Blur Studio did the cinematics, which bookended each mission. And then the missions themselves were a good variety. There were about 12 or 13 of them in the game. And the thing that Halo Wars did well from a design perspective was two things. One, the controls. It had far and away the best gamepad controls of any console RTS, of which
is hard to do, as it turns out.
It's really hard to do. Like I remember Supreme Commander 2 on Xbox 360 had literally layers of commands. You had to, there'd be like a shift button, and then you got like layer 2. So they did what they could, but Halo Wars Ensemble completely nailed just a really intuitive, approachable control scheme.
And Supreme Commander is a massively complex game to begin with.
True.
Especially the first one. I don't know if two. I guess 2 did come out on console. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because that was published by Square published that. But so yeah, Halo Wars. Diehard hardcore PC gamers might look at Halo Wars and think of it as RTS light, but it kind of knows its limits, and it designed itself well so that it still plays like a strategy game and feels good as a strategy game, but is fairly approachable. Maybe it's not for you, maybe you wouldn't like it, but
I mean, I have nothing against like simple, streamlined strategy games.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes those can create some of the best things. I mean, you look at chess. Chess is not a utterly complex game. It's not you're not setting waypoints and stuff like that. It is a simple but deliberate game with a lot of the depth emerges from what you do with the simple tools you have. So as long as they design a game that has that kind of depth, I don't care if there's simplicity to the controls and how it works. Like that can be a good thing.
And so with Halo Wars 2, the question becomes, Halo Wars 1 knew its limits, and it sort of designed its gameplay around the gamepad control scheme, and so it was never too daunting, but it also wasn't Fisher-Price my first RTS either. It kind of occupied a nice middle ground. But with Halo Wars 2, it is going to simultaneously ship on Windows 10, so we're going to get mouse and keyboard controls. So the question becomes, from a game design perspective, how far can you sort of dial up the complexity and the layers to the strategy game versus having to also balance for the gamepad on the console side.
But yeah, and that's something that will remain to be seen. But one thing I want to talk about a little bit that was really interesting about this to me is that Creative Assembly is owned by Sega.
Yeah,
which I would love to know how this deal came about. Also, of the 2 RTS developers that Sega owns, I kind of thought Relic would be the better fit for this, because I mean, you look at the Dawn of War series they've done, the Warhammer games, kind of Space Marine tactical games. That seems like a much better fit for Halo than Total War.
The question is, you're not wrong, but the question is, what is Relic up to? And
Relic's almost certainly doing Dawn of War 3.
So there's your answer. They're busy.
But Creative Assembly is doing they're doing Total Warhammer. They're doing Total War Arena. They're probably doing another game on top of that. They just put out they're about to put out another expansion for Rome 2 Total War. Like they're super busy too, and like who knows what the Alien Isolation team is doing.
Well, I wonder if the question. So Halo Wars 2 is due out fall of next year.
Right.
So it's not the Alien team, because they've only been done with Alien for since October.
Yep.
Is that when that game came out? So. You wonder sort of who's leading the project. Who, is it a Total War? One of the creative leads there. I mean, you're not wrong, but clearly, you
just in terms of the expertise of the studio, it seems like that type of combat is Relic's bread and butter.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, Creative Assembly has shown that they can branch out. They've done a lot of weird things. They actually did do a console RTS called Stormrise that was terrible.
I reviewed that game for OXM back in the day.
But hopefully,
it was not good.
Hopefully that is their example of what not to do. But yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting. But let's move on to some of the other big announcements out of Gamescom that are coming out on PC. Mafia 3.
Big time happy about this. I mean, it is odd how this series just. We're up to game 3. Maybe will come out next year. Knowing 2K, they delay almost everything they do, which is usually for the better.
Yep.
And they've said 2016. I don't believe that given their track record, but I mean, Mafia 2 was in development for about 7 years all told, and now Mafia 3 has sort of every now and again you hear about the. Rod Ferguson was once heading up this game, and he left and went up to the Coalition. He now runs the Gears of War studio for Microsoft, and apparently Mafia 3 has changed hands a couple times, because even before that, Illusion Softworks, which became 2K Czech, was closed, and they moved Mafia 3 over to 2K Marin.
They've rebooted this game at least once.
Probably once or twice.
Yeah.
So this series can't seem to get away from development hell situations, but Mafia 2 turned out excellent, and the sort of period piece cinematic trailer that they released for Mafia 3 with the announce leads. I mean, we're up into the it looks like maybe early 70s because we had Jimi Hendrix late on the radio and down in the bayou of Louisiana. I'm very curious to see where this game goes.
I mean, we have no idea what it'll actually play like, but
no.
I mean, it'll probably be an open world shooter, but we'll see.
Mafia 2, I loved Mafia 2. My big sort of sticking point with that game was that it was this. The art direction was this gorgeous world, beautifully directed, but there was very little to do. It was sort of a linear game set in an open world, kind of. I don't want to say pointlessly, but there was never any reason to explore, or go anywhere, or do anything. So I'm curious to see if they'll flesh that out for Mafia 3, or if they'll go ahead and stream it back to more of a linear game and sort of go that way.
Well, let's just hope they bring back that racetrack level from the first game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that first game was a great game. Other than that, stupid racetrack.
Well, don't forget the speed limits. So you go over the speed limit, and the cops will just they will come in full force for you.
I kind of enjoyed that. Just because so many games you just run wild without consequence and just blast by cops. They don't care.
I will say I'm gonna kind of miss the 20s, 30s, 40s a little bit. Nothing against the 70s, but it's
not different enough.
I would agree.
It's too contemporary.
I agree. It's a little contemporary because there was just something. They did such a great job with Mafia 1 and 2 of really setting the period, setting the time, setting the place. It just felt very different than any other open world game, any other game of that time. So we'll see.
So the next thing I want to talk about is Battlefront rolled out a fighter mode, a fighters only mode, which makes me feel a lot better about them not having space combat.
Look, I think that's exactly what it's targeted at.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they just said, oh no, they don't like that we don't have space combat. Let's throw this in there. This is probably on the roadmap from the beginning
for sure.
And it looks and sounds like Star Wars. Based on just having flown a snowspeeder briefly at E3, that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it will be. And Mitch Dyer was telling me because he and I sort of watched this together when it happened. And I guess this mode is basically straight out of 1942 or Battlefield 1942 or 43. Mm-hmm. There was a similar mode where it's just dogfighting.
Yep.
Yeah. So following their own DICE blueprint on that, but should be a good fit for Battlefront.
Yeah, and Star Wars. I don't think have we ever seen an X-wing in combat in atmosphere? I don't know if we have. I guess we'll probably see it in Episode 7 based on the trailers. But I usually when I think of Star Wars combat with X-wings and TIE fighters, it's always in space.
Yeah.
But arguably doing it in atmosphere is more interesting because there's the ground to deal with, and you can have and that keeps battles from getting too spread out like they kind of do in X-wing versus TIE fighter. If people are just off in their own little furballs in different areas, that got a little bit weird. And then you just have missile duels as people come at each other after they finish their individual engagements. So flying through canyons and stuff could be fun.
Yeah, I still totally want a full up space battle mode in Battlefront, in the inevitable Battlefront 2, though, where I want to be able to leave atmosphere. I want the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just want a new X-wing versus TIE fighter game.
Well, they could theoretically have that in a Battlefront. They could make that game inside of Star Wars Battlefront 2.
They could. It's still a little bit arcadey. I want a little bit more of that sim aspect. Action. I want to be able to balance my and I guess they do have some power redirection stuff in Battlefront. You can put more power to your engines or shields or whatever or weapons, but it's a little bit more arcadey than it is in old school X-wing, which I miss.
It's Larry Holland is his name, right? That's the designer. What's he up to these days? Call him up. Yeah. now that EA has the license. Yeah. Just get him on board. Get him to make a new X-wing versus TIE fighter.
Next on the list, XCOM 2's strategy layer, which near and dear to my heart. It does. They've taken the wraps off that. That was the thing that we did the month of IGN first. Mm-hmm. Kept asking them about that. They're like, we don't want to tell you yet. They were saving it for Gamescom. And we've got a video interview with Garth DeAngelis that Max is doing that he did I guess last night. It's up on the site now.
Awesome, over at Gamescom.
Yeah, it's pretty in-depth look at how you're managing the mobile base, the Avenger, which is a captured alien ship that's retrofitted with to serve as your base, and they have the ant farm look to it, where you're building rooms and unlocking new stuff, and they've got much more in-depth personnel management in there. So like your individual scientists and engineers will be named people that you're assigning to different projects. The entire global strategy game is completely different because now the aliens control the Earth. So you are
Spoiler.
you're trying to take it back. So it's about going around and connecting resistance cells and establishing a radio network, a communications network. It's a much different game, and what they're promising is a much more dynamic game, much more replayable thing, because when you played through Enemy Unknown a few times, you kind of figured out the logical path. Like, here's what you research first. Here's what here's the next thing you work towards in manufacturing, and build out your engineers and your scientists, and launch these satellites at this time. This one, they're promising a bit more dynamic approach to that, so that you won't be able to kind of lock in that same approach every time. The items you'll get to unlock, or be able to research and gain access to, will be more randomized. So it seems like it'll have a more roguelike flavor to it, which I'm really looking forward to. Like, because that was one of my complaints about the first one, is that the research path is a little bit too linear.
Now I'm curious, from what you've seen of it so far, is XCOM 2 doing things to sort of, I don't want to say justify it being only a PC game, being a PC exclusive game, but is it going deeper or adding layers that sort of suit it more to being exclusively a PC game, or from what you've seen of it so far, do you feel like, yeah, this could totally still be on either console and be fine?
I think based on what I've seen so far, it looks like they are designing it with an eventual console version in mind.
Yeah.
Just based on the UI. Like, they didn't go like all out PC UI on this.
Right.
It's still got the same style of menus and everything it has from Enemy Unknown. Although they say they've taken things like mouse throw into account, and that's having to move your mouse from one side of the screen to the other just to hit buttons that you want to hit one after the other.
Right.
So minimize like having to go around the screen hunting for different buttons you want to push. And they've added more information to the main screen, because they're expecting you to be sitting closer to the screen.
Yeah.
So there are things like that, but it's not quite as far as I would have liked to see them go to really take advantage of that. I think where we're really going to see that benefit is in modding.
Nice.
Because they have promised a full
Steam
SDK,
Workshop, right?
Steam Workshop integration, full SDK at release, at or very close. Like, Garth DeAngelis was very excited about the idea of having it ready to go at release, and that would allow people to just go absolutely crazy with adding everything to that game.
Nice.
And even without modding tools, there's a basically the mod for XCOM Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within is the Long War, which people were able to cobble together without any kind of official mod support. And I'm really excited to see what people will do with actual, supported access to everything.
Yeah, there should be an awesome community around that game. I mean, you got to say, is there any better caretaker of the XCOM franchise than Firaxis? It feels like it fell into the best possible hands, which never happens. We're never that lucky. It's always somebody like, well, I wish the original person could have gotten it, but no, Firaxis seems to be taking really good care of the series. A lot of respect.
Yeah, I mean, they had never really done a tactical combat game like this before, but they've done all kinds of turn-based strategy. So they were a fantastic fit, and they've done a great job with it. Next up, we have some Blizzard. Blizzard rolled out a bunch of news.
Don't sleep on Blizzard.
They've announced that there's StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void is coming out this year, which was in doubt, but it's in beta now. But it is coming out this year, and it's getting a new mode, which is kind of like a almost MOBA-ish co-op thing, where you're playing as the heroes of the story. You're playing as Kerrigan and Jim Raynor and I forget the Protoss guy's name. Starts with an A. But anyway, so you're fighting as those guys. and objective-based missions. It looks like, so it's a completely different mode of play, and like Blizzard loves to just add these completely different like mini games to StarCraft, which is great.
Yeah, they're not afraid to mess around. No Diablo 3, no Diablo 4 though, or new Diablo 3 expansion. I feel like it's been kind of put to bed now.
I mean, if they follow their pattern, there will be another expansion.
I hope so.
Yeah, and it could be another year or so before, or probably next year we'll see it, I would guess. But who's to say? Blizzard works in mysterious ways.
That is true.
And they also just announced the new expansion for WoW. This is, I think, their 6th expansion. It's called Legion. They're bringing back the Burning Legion, which the big green glowing rocky guys.
What are they? They've lost subscribers. But what are they still at 7 or 8, something like that? Million?
5.7 million was the number that came out, which is down from their all-time high of 12 million in 2010. But I mean, like
5.7 is still like a small country's GDP for the year. I mean,
yeah, and remember, these are subscribers. Like it's still not an entirely free to play game. I think they let you play for free up to level 20, and there are some other things you can do. But that's still a lot of people paying to play this game, and also like a bunch of them are in China and paying less than they're not paying $15 a month to. But I mean, it's still a huge amount of money, a huge amount of players.
Back up the Brinks truck on a monthly basis over at Blizzard.
Right. I mean, it is in decline. Like but it's been around for 11 years.
It's like it has nowhere to go but down. Right. I mean, if I'm sure when they launched it, if somebody told them, "Hi, I'm from the future, and in 11 years from now, you're still going to have nearly 6 million subscribers," I'm sure they'd have had to revive them with smelling salts. They would have passed out.
Yeah, and it'll bounce back up when the new expansion comes out, and then it's kind of a weird bouncing down kind of thing, but. Like, eventually Blizzard's going to have to launch some kind of new MMO to replace
Titan was canceled.
Became Overwatch.
Yeah.
Speaking of Overwatch, they announced they literally rolled out a new character on roller skates for that.
Well done, Dan.
And Heroes of the Storm is getting Diablo characters. So there's your Diablo.
There it is.
So it's getting
Diablo. Make me play another Blizzard game to get my Diablo fix.
But that one's free. So,
nice.
So you'll be able to play as Diablo characters in a new mode, Diablo-related Battlegrounds mode. After that, man, Battleborn coming out February 6th of next year.
Smart. They'd been vague. They said winter, which of course could have implied. I mean, if you go by the literal calendar definition, anywhere from December to March. So shipping this year would have probably been a terrible idea, given the fact that the track record of new IPs shipping in the 4th quarter season is not a great one unless you have an 8-figure marketing budget for the likes of an Assassin's Creed or a Gears of War or something like that. So
you know what had a marketing budget like that? The original Homefront. Remember that?
Not a holiday release.
No, but remember the marketing budget.
The balloons into the sky.
They went
into the San
crazy.
Francisco Bay to choke out all the animals and kill them.
Yep. And but on a related note, Homefront 2 has reemerged from another development hell situation.
Yeah. I got to see it when it was first unveiled. Right before last E3, right at last year's E3. Mm-hmm. And I liked what I saw a lot. I mean, I really enjoyed the first game. That was done by Chaos Studios, the guys that got their start doing the Desert Combat mod for Battlefield. And what I really liked about Homefront was the campaign was absurdly. It was a 3-hour campaign. You start the game in Colorado, and you get to, but in 3 hours you're on the Golden Gate Bridge finishing the game. I was like, wait a minute, I couldn't even do that in real life if I were in a car. Like we're really playing with time here. But the multiplayer in the first Homefront was really good. It was
a lot of drone-based stuff.
Yes, drone stuff and vehicles, and it was just really well put together, which their previous game, Frontlines Fuel of War, had done the same as well. That game was very overlooked, in my opinion. Again, all building off of their Battlefield Desert Combat mod experience. And then, unfortunately, Chaos shut down, and THQ burned to the ground. Crytek picked up the entire Homefront IP, lock, stock, and barrel in the auction, in the fire sale, and they'd set their own. They'd set the. They called them Crytek UK, but that was basically Free Radical. The Time Splitters guys were working on Homefront: The Revolution. That's the game I saw, which set in Philadelphia, open world but narrative based. You could kind of go wherever, take different missions. Again, still had some of that cool drone stuff. And then Crytek fell on hard times. They're still with us, fortunately,
but not that studio. That studio.
Well, it seems like, by best we can piece together, all of those people quit because
they weren't getting
paid. So during when Crytek fell on their financial hard time, and so Deep Silver, who was going to publish the game with Crytek, swooped in while they were weak and vulnerable and said, "Okay, well, we're just going to buy this whole thing for a song, and this is ours now." And now Deep Silver owns it. And they fortunately the game is back. I'm glad it's survived all this.
Now, one of my favorite things about when you came back from seeing it, you were saying like, oh yeah, they had the whole caveat. It's like, oh, none of this will actually be in the game. It's just a vertical slice.
It was a vertical slice, yeah.
But it's a vertical slice that they had made for like demo purposes. So
Correct.
It's not. They were very clear about all this stuff you're seeing. It's just like, oh, this is the basic idea we've got, but this is not actually what will be in the game. Yeah. So I guess we still haven't actually seen this game.
Well, we don't know if what they showed at Gamescom in their sort of re-reveal was from actual missions, or if it was, again, I can't imagine it was a new vertical slice, because it is, even though they're called something else now, it's by and large the same team, and they got with the same assets and the same. They just moved down the street and put a new name on the front of the building, and so we'll see. But I'm glad they seem to have. It's not like they rebooted it again. They seem to be working off the same ideas. Which like I said, I liked what I saw. If it can be sort of, if they can really work in some good character-driven stuff, where your North Korea is occupying the United States, and you're in this sort of rebel movement in Philadelphia, and you can wander the streets at night, and there's a lot to like in what they're doing
conceptually. So
yes, absolutely.
But still TBD. I mean, it's basically a whole new team, a whole new concept, effectively,
more or less.
So it's unproven, but potentially cool.
I'm sure that's probably a fall 2016 game, if I had to guess, because I don't think they even put a date on it.
I think it was supposed to be early 2016.
Oh, did they say it?
Yeah.
Well, did they say that?
I think.
All right, I'll have to go check after the show.
I think spring.
All right,
but
that would be good.
Yeah,
sooner the better.
Prove me wrong. Another thing back from obscurity is Cobalt. Remember Cobalt when Mojang
was going to make other video games?
Yeah, it was like Mojang is like, oh yeah, we're gonna publish other games.
Yeah,
and I think in that case they had an internal team working on Cobalt, which is just a cool looking little 2D platformer, but it was announced and then we never really saw anything. That was years ago. It was probably 2011. That was announced, and like now it's just okay. It's coming out on PC and Xbox One in October. So all right, we'll take it. We'll check out what the fruits of Mojang have have borne. And it's an interesting situation just because like that feels like something that Notch, Marcus Persson probably just had like on the back burner.
Sure.
And just like, oh yeah, I'll just keep giving you guys money to work on this until whenever. And Microsoft bought it and probably said, okay, let's put this out now. Would be my guess. But it's a long-awaited. Who knows what was going on with that thing. And Black Ops 3, they just kind of a shocking announcement from them. The PC version will have 2-player split screen, which almost never happens. And this is Halo's dropping split screen,
right.
and Call of Duty's adding it to PC. That's I did not see that coming. All right, but they're also saying you're going to have a 100% ranked dedicated servers, a field of view slider, support for 4K resolutions. They're saying they're actually going to support SLI and Crossfire out of the gate. The min spec is reasonable. It's 6 gigs of RAM.
Well, it's such an old engine. Like they've evolved it, but it's not exactly like
it's no spring
edge.
chicken, but yeah, it looks good.
It does, and it does look nice. Like that engine was getting painfully long in the tooth until Advanced Warfare last year. I thought like Call of Duty Ghosts, which was a
they had to kind of sever the ties with the old consoles.
But yeah, Advanced Warfare last year looks super nice. Particularly the characters look incredible.
But yeah, it requires a Core i3 or Phenom 2 X4, 6 gigs of RAM, and a GTX 470 or Radeon 6970, which is modest.
So I can do that with my eyes closed.
Yeah, and like I'm personally glad they've gone from like 4 gigs of RAM being them in to 6. Like just give them a little more to play with.
Well, you figure the consoles are pushing 8 with about 6 usable, so that's probably where that comes from.
Yeah, but for such a long time we were locked into the 4 gig spec, and that's a piddling amount of RAM now. There's new info on Fallout 4. There will be no level cap.
That's interesting because we have not seen Bethesda do that.
No, so in the Elder Scrolls games they have level scaling. So I mean you can I think.
Well, they still have. I thought they got rid of it in Skyrim.
No, I don't think so. I'm not actually.
What you mean? You're talking about with the monsters?
Yeah,
that was a big thing in Oblivion.
Yeah,
and I thought they got rid of it for
they may have
Skyrim.
That's a good point. They may have gotten rid of it in Skyrim. I know they got rid of it in Fallout 3. Their whole line was a Deathclaw is a Deathclaw. Yeah. But the thing that concerns me about that is that if they don't have level scaling, are we just going to be walking around one-shotting every Deathclaw?
Maybe.
Like that's. So that just gets unfun.
I'm level 642.
Right. So I hope they have some solution.
I am God in this world.
Yeah. I hope they have some solution in mind to prevent that kind of God mode, because it's fun for a little while. It's like I just killed that thing, but then you do that 17 times and it's like, well, why am I doing this anymore?
You're literally indestructible.
Right. So I mean. Yeah, I mean they're smart guys. I'm sure they'll have some solution in mind. I just hope it's better than Oblivion style level scaling. So
with Fallout 4, between the unlimited, the lack of level cap, and all of the crafting stuff, they are really. I mean, people were already going to play.
They're playing the long game.
Yeah, but now they're really doubling down on the long game.
Yeah, I mean they've figured out that like people like to keep playing their games long after the content they crafted is over.
I feel like don't take this with a grain of salt, because this is just from the depths of my own cobweb infested brain, but I feel like there was a Steam statistic sometime after Skyrim had come out that said like the average Skyrim player on Steam had played something like 70 hours of like the average player.
Right. Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise me. I did about 80 in Skyrim after doing about $1.75 in Oblivion before that.
Yeah, and it's I probably spent 100 hours in Skyrim and never actually finished the story.
A lot of people are probably in that boat.
Yep. So moving along here, I mean, there are just a bunch of games coming out on PC that are getting some new info out at Gamescom that I just want to just rattle off.
Do it.
Metal Gear Solid 5, which by the way is coming out.
Got moved up.
Got moved out day and date with the consoles now, September 1st. There's new footage out for that. There's
Metal Gear Online still comes later though.
Yeah, and even
for console and PC,
and even later on PC than on console. On consoles, it comes out in October. I think it's next year for PC.
Correct. I think that's correct.
But there's new footage for Rainbow Six Siege, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Just Cause
don't sleep
3.
on Assassin's Creed. I mean, excuse me, on Rainbow Six. That I feel like it's no one's really talking about Rainbow Six right now. That game is A, super fun, and B, I think it's going to be huge on consoles and on PC.
Yeah, I'm all for the destructibility.
Yeah,
it looks
so good.
Looks like a lot of fun. Just Cause 3, Dark Souls 3, For Honor, Need for Speed, Mountain Blade 2. I guess Paradox accidentally announced new Space 4X by putting the Steam page live a little bit early. It's called Stellaris. There's just an incredible amount of stuff. And like before we came in here on the show, I was like just hitting refresh on IGN, just like
making sure.
Yeah,
we're up to the second accurate.
There is stuff coming out all the time. Like the Blizzard conference was just going. I think it was still going when we came in here. So there may be even more Blizzard news I don't know about yet. Looking at this past year, what the first half of this year, and then looking ahead at the next half, one thing I've noticed is that this is going to be looking back an incredible year at RPGs on PC in particular.
It's funny, you and I are old enough. There was a time where RPGs were huge in like the 90s, and then kind of the early mid, and then there was a time like RPGs kind of went away by and large for a long time.
I wouldn't say they ever really went away, but I mean they
waned in popularity.
Right, absolutely,
I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely, I mean there have always been pretty big RPGs out there.
Yeah,
but not like this. Like they're just
the genre has roared back.
So let me just go down a couple of the big ones that we've seen this year.
Yeah,
Pillars of Eternity,
good game.
The Dragon Age Inquisition, Jaws of Hakan, like that.
IGN's core was IGN's game of the year for last year.
Yep. The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt.
4 million sold in like the first month.
Final Fantasy 14, A Realm Reborn.
Which is one of the greatest stories.
Heaven's Word is the expansion.
The expansion, that one of the most incredible turnaround stories in the history of video games.
We've had smaller things like Invisible Ink, which it's a roguelike.
Call that an RPG?
Absolutely. You're developing your character. You're making decisions.
All right.
Yeah, and
call it more of a turn-based stealth game.
It is. Well, I mean, it's a. What is an RPG? Like I hate having that conversation.
I'll give it to you,
but like for me, it's like if you're making character development decisions, you're choosing your course, you're going through a story, like that kind of makes it an RPG. I consider XCOM an RPG. It's a tactical RPG.
All right. Well, that's a whole show unto itself.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's you're developing characters and taking them through a story. I consider that an RPG. You've got, and on that same note, you got Massive Chalice, you got Black Arts 2. That's more of a traditional one. And that's just in the first half of the year, which is traditionally slower. August.
Didn't Wasteland 2 come out this year?
I think that was last year.
Last year? Okay.
It'll come out. There's a enhanced edition that'll come out this year.
Gotcha.
August has turned into a pretty big RPG month. On August 11th, a new Dragon Age Inquisition DLC, The Descent, comes out. Those have been pretty meaty.
That's smart on EA and BioWare's part, because August is a pretty quiet time. Otherwise, it's a great time to drop that.
Well, you would think, except then 9 days later on August 20th, Shadowrun Hong Kong comes out. And
there's a good Kickstarter success story.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like the first game was just good, and then they came out with the second one. I forget the name of it, but
Jordan Wiseman's in on that, right?
Yeah,
it's his. Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's Harebrained Schemes, the developer. They came out with the second one, which was, I actually never got to play it. I was bummed. But it was universally praised as being significantly better. This one, Hong Kong, looks even better than that. Looking forward to that. Pillars of Eternity, The White March Part 1 comes out 5 days after that on the August 25th. So
there are not enough hours in the day at this point.
Yeah, and it's like it's going to be difficult for any human to play all three of those in a reasonable amount of time. In September, Sword Coast Legends comes out. That's a D&D game. In October,
it's sort of an action RPG, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, which is totally my kind of a D&D in an action RPG form. Yep. Thank you. Sign me up.
Then you've got in October, Tales of Zestiria is it's on PC
Big
now.
Series,
those Tales games. You've got the Star Wars: The Old Republic, Knights of the Fallen Empire expansion. Had an awesome trailer.
And what I like about that, now that I have a modern PC, I've been for years since it came out, as someone who loves Knights of the Old Republic, I've had friends tell me, you got to play the Old Republic. It's basically KOTOR like 3 through 7.
Well, it has a bunch of great story stuff in it.
Right, but and it's sort of soloable, I'm told as well. If I can't run down friends, but what I like about this new expansion is you can just get a level 60 character and just like dive right in, which is hugely appealing for someone like me that would just be jumping into the game for the first time.
Yeah, and you kind of want to skip the level grind. That's what drove me away, is just the grind.
I don't have time for that. I have a 4-year-old and too much going on. So I love the skip the grind.
November, you got Fallout 4 and XCOM 2. And then we've got the TBDs, which are the World of Warcraft Legion expansion, which
to be delayed, hopefully, because going up against
I guess they said it's going to beta this year, not necessarily coming out this year.
Right.
I'll be kind of surprised if it actually comes out this year. Guild Wars 2 also has an expansion called Heart of Thorns.
Guild Wars 2 still going strong.
And Darkest Dungeon, which is in early access now and a lot of fun now.
Yeah.
I played a bunch of it just to because it was getting a lot of buzz. It's a lot of fun. But then I kind of swore off of it until Final comes out because I early access I have very mixed feelings about.
I'm with you on that.
Like playing a game, you only get one first impression.
Exactly.
And playing a game before it's done and complete, like you can kind of burn out on the ideas in there and the novelty of them before they're at their best.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame to do.
Yeah, I love that early access exists for those that want to get really invested and help sort of polish up the game and maybe contribute to making it better in some small way. But yeah, for me, again, it goes back to, I have a full-time job, I have a young family, and so my gaming time is limited. I don't want to spend it playing unreleased broken things. I want to
play the released broken things.
Give me the final polished product. I will wait for it. There's 6 million other games I can play in the meantime. When your game is done and polished and out, I'm happy to jump into it then.
Yep. And by all means, finish it before you release it.
Yeah, and if you are someone who plays early access games, thank you for making it better for me later. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the paying beta testers.
Yeah.
So thank you for your service. And that does allow a lot of games to exist that wouldn't otherwise exist.
And early access is now on the both consoles as well. So it is a
growing
trend
phenomenon.
that is not going away.
But yeah, like that. This I think it's going to be a pretty epic struggle to determine the RPG of 2015. And just between The Witcher, Fallout, Pillars of Eternity, like those are three like huge.
We know what's going to sell the best.
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty much a foregone conclusion with Fallout. With all due respect to The Witcher, that's already sold huge. I mean, Fallout's going to have the marketing, it's got the name, it's got the fact that it's been 5 years. No, excuse me, 6.
It was
7 years.
2000. It was 2008.
Vegas,
yeah.
I guess.
2008 was Fallout 3, and then I think
2010.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So 5 years since the last major Fallout release.
It's a long time, and a lot of pent up desire.
Look what it did for Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. But yeah, like I know there are a bunch of people in this office who swear by The Witcher. And,
oh yeah.
And
rightfully so.
And Fallout, while a spectacular game, has its detractors and reasons that people would prefer Witcher over it. So I think my heart and soul belongs to Fallout just because I prefer the sci-fi setting to fantasy.
But
myself.
It's going. I mean, I would bet money right now it's going to be the top-selling role-playing game of this year,
if not the top-selling game.
Right. I mean, it's that you've got. Call of Duty will compete for that title, but and also I think Battlefront could make a huge push at that best-selling game as well. Remember that Force Awakens marketing to piggyback on.
Absolutely, we will see. So the other thing I want to talk about, given that it's been a couple of weeks now since Windows 10 has come out, is what do you think of that?
I'm really happy with it so far. Anybody that knows me knows I like my operating systems fast and minimalist. That's just, I want lean and mean. The leaner and the meaner, the better.
Which is, by the way, why you've been pretty critical of the Xbox One's interface.
Yeah,
it is none of those things.
It's designed for Kinect. If you don't have a Kinect, it's like when I plug it in at work and I don't have Kinect there like I do at home, it's a clunky kind of mess.
Yep.
But
Windows 10 is stripped down of a lot of the clunky garbage that they put in Windows 8.
It's very quick. It's not constantly harassing me if I want to. Are you sure you want to open this? It could be bad for you. Like, easy there, big government.
I think it actually does do that. I think it carried over your settings from when you upgraded. When you
go in and disable,
you already turned that stuff down, the VAC or whatever, it's something. But that's one of the first things I do on a new PC is just turn off all those. Like, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, yes, I'm sure.
But yeah, it's quick, it's clean. It doesn't have the Windows 8 touchscreen shell layer.
So it does still have that if you have a
if you want
touchscreen
it.
PC.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is a no-brainer, but it's like, oh, hey, maybe if you look and see if I have a touchscreen and then put up the touchscreen UI. Don't force it on me, Microsoft. And they finally figured that out, which is... so, I mean, my overall impression of it so far is that I really like all the UI tweaks they've made.
Yeah.
You know, I do like kind of the way they're getting it out of my way a lot, and just having it, you know, be content to be in the background a lot. The new start menu is a big improvement over Windows 8. I don't know if I like it better than Windows 7. I don't particularly care for the live tiles yet.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I also it alphabetizes the list of apps, which I can see how, like, I don't know if I guess that works, but
and it has the most recent or most frequently used stuff.
Yeah,
up
it
there,
does at
which,
the top.
Which I like. That's most of what I use the start menu for. You know, besides launching programs, so or you know, typing stuff in to search for it. So I mean, that's most of what I need. You know, it would have been nice for them to do something a little bit more useful than those live tiles. It's like, okay, I have the weather in there now. I still have virtually no interest in using their modern apps. I don't think I've seen any of them do anything better than just a web-based version or a you know, conventional desktop-based version. How about that? And because I don't have a Surface, like, it's not super useful to me. Also on that note, Cortana is kind of a disappointment.
haven't tried that out yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's their, you know, desktop assistant or
Right.
their personal assistant stuff. It feels very much like something designed for a phone, not for a desktop.
Because it was designed for a phone.
Yeah, like it doesn't do a whole lot that's useful for a desktop or a home theater PC. One thing I was shocked about is that you can't say, "Hey Cortana, turn the volume up." Like it can't control the volume on my system, which
That's
is
too bad.
Which is bizarre. It can do like it control the Windows Media Player playback. It'll stop and pause, you know, start and stop that. But it's not as good as the Xbox One at recognizing media control commands, which is kind of a bummer. I'm sure it'll get there.
Yeah, I tried the Xbox One game streaming to Windows 10 last night.
Me too.
It could not have gone more simple or smooth. It was easy.
Yeah.
I did a quick check on, like, it'll check to see whether you can handle a low, medium, or high quality stream. I checked out all three. Did a high quality, and
both your Xbox and your PC are wired, correct?
They are both wired, and they're in the same room, to be fair. So it's not exactly like the most strenuous test ever, but it is. There was no perceptible lag at all, and the picture quality was really good on my monitor. So there's even a little setting you can sort of turn on the under the hood stuff, and it'll show you sort of your bandwidth usage and how the sort of the mathematical quality of the stream. So yeah, it was like 2 clicks. It was connect to Xbox and stream this. Boom, done, and I'm playing.
Yeah, I tried it out last night as well. I played some Batman Arkham Knight briefly, and it was responsive enough, even though, to my great shame, my PC is on Wi-Fi right now. I still need to get that wired, but that's going to be a project. But
Time to drill some holes in Dan's house.
I wish it were that easy.
Walls, floors, ceilings, drill, baby, drill.
But yeah, it worked. You know, surprisingly well.
Yeah.
And as well as I expect in-home streaming to work, which is, and it would drop every so often, and, you know, kind of skip for a fraction of a second.
Yeah,
but it's
I
still
didn't have
totally
that on
playable.
the wired connection, but
And still totally playable.
Yeah.
And you know, it still strikes me as a feature for people who don't own gaming PCs. Like if you own a gaming PC, like you play your games on that.
Yeah.
You know, like there's unless there's a game that is only on Xbox and you want to play it where your PC is, and you can't. It's not like you can play it with a mouse and keyboard. So there's not really an advantage to doing it.
The one thing I'd like to try, I don't own a Windows 10 tablet. I would like to try streaming to the tablet so that theoretically I could be like, maybe I want to just be up in my bed, just winding down, and I want to get one last round of Halo or something in.
Exactly. It treats it like the PS4 treats a Vita.
Yeah. So that's where I'd love to try it. But yeah, for desktop, I mean, it's not really I don't personally have a use for it, but I could see how it has its uses.
Right. And yeah, it's for that guy who has an Xbox and a Surface. It's not really for me.
Right.
Yeah, I have an Xbox and I have a PC.
Or
but
if you've got kids occupying the television, you can stream something over.
exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why you would be using it at all instead of just playing on your TV.
Of course.
So, but as far as is this a necessary upgrade for PC gamers? I'd say, based on all the performance benchmarks I've seen and based on my personal observations, I would say there's no rush. There is no huge performance benefit at all yet.
It is free though.
It is, and you should upgrade. For security purposes, for just to get rid of the god awful Windows 8 UI. Windows 7 is still perfectly viable.
Yeah.
Until DirectX 12 games start coming out, which probably won't happen until next year.
Phil Spencer had told me that Fable Legends is a DirectX 12 game, which is going to be a free to play on both Xbox One and PC if you're interested in that one.
Right. Yeah. I guess that might be one of the first.
He did say that was going to be one of the first.
Yeah. But like that you could start seeing some major performance bumps. But unless a game specifically supports DirectX 12, it's going to be very comparable to Windows 8 speeds.
Windows versions are like Star Trek movies, Dan. Every other one is good.
Yeah,
it goes back. If you go ahead, do it in your head.
I think 95 and 98 were
8,
both
not
pretty
so
good.
great. So 10 seems good. 8 not as great. 7 good. Vista everyone hated.
Yep.
And you go back to XP, which was amazing. Millennium, which was horrible. 98, which was great. 95 was eh.
Are we counting 2000 and NT in there?
Those weren't consumer. Those were sort of business. Those weren't really consumer facing OSs.
I was on 2000.
Well, you're a power user. 2000 wasn't super games friendly though at the time.
No, well, it took a few years. It was probably like 2002 before it was good for games. But we digress. But yeah, you can upgrade for free to Windows 10, and you probably should. Like, there's very few reasons you shouldn't. Like, I haven't had any game compatibility problems with it yet.
Yeah, me neither.
We actually have an article. Like, if you've got that thing, you're still waiting for Windows.
Stupid flag in your taskbar.
If you're still waiting for Microsoft to say, okay, you can upgrade now with the Windows Update background stuff. If you don't want to wait for that, there's an article on IGN that'll tell you exactly how to do it. It's really easy actually. Just a little program you download and just say upgrade.
Yeah, I think if you just Google IGN Windows 10 skip the wait.
Yep,
we'll find it for you real quick.
Yeah. So that'll just about do it for us this week. And we'll be back full force next week. I'm sure Mitch and Brian will have a lot to say about the International.
Yeah.
And we'll have like the full scope of things that actually happened at Gamescom. But this was just something we had to get out of our systems.
And that was you weren't kidding that it was a lot. It's almost an hour-long show, just the two of us rattling on here.
And there's plenty of stuff. I'm sure people are there's lots of stuff we missed just because there's an overwhelming amount of PC games content out there right now.
Thanks for having me, Dan. I appreciate it.
And thank you for stepping up when I needed you.
Happy to be here.
All right. Thanks, everybody.